people like Farage, are visibly pulling back. They too are frightened. They too are dealing with unknowns. They too know that they're staring into the abyss. This is, or remember, Robinson himself, right, let's again get this clear.
Yeah.
Robinson himself will lead nowhere.
And he doesn't want to, really. He doesn't want
and I
a
do
political solution.
Robinson himself will go nowhere. But if we continue down the route that we are now, what will happen is exactly what happened in ancient Rome, is exactly what happened in Weimar Germany. You will find some element of the formal political system working out a way overtly to enlist this.
Tommy Robinson, where do you stand on him? Is he a political prisoner? Should he be behind bars in a prison at the moment with a large Muslim population, 37% Muslim population in Woodhill? And is it wrong that the mainstream media talks about this guy as if he's either a devil or ignores him altogether?
I'm going to have to plead to a lot, and sorry, you know me, I'm not somebody who hesitates normally. I don't know very much about Tommy Robinson. Robinson belongs into a world which I don't really understand, and I don't really want to understand. As I said, this is the politics of the street. And I am deeply, deeply uncomfortable with that. I'm infinitely more uncomfortable, by the way, with the politics of the street as we see it every Sunday, with those abominations of Jew-hating processions in favor of the radical Islam that murders and slaughters and rapes. That I object to even more. But I really, I don't understand Robinson, and in one sense, I don't want to understand Robinson because I don't want that sort of politics. Right, that's my general position. Let me turn it the other way around. On the other hand, if you have a politics, as I've been describing it, in which you suppress democracy, in which you go for a platonic noble lie, in other words, you proclaim a set of values which actually most of the population doesn't subscribe to, then I'm afraid you get Tommy Robinsons.
Yes.
That's my position.
The Tory leadership,
I suppose if I'm going to pursue that argument further, if the government, if Starmer's government and this entire legal, political, administrative complex that we have continues holding the kind of line that it is, if it continues using financial and fiscal policies, as we saw in the last government, to protect its own, to protect the public sector at the expense of everybody else, which is that's the only thing that budget is designed to do. It's designed to featherbed the public sector. As we know, Starmer himself, and does everybody know this? Starmer himself has a pension so huge as Director of Public Prosecutions that there is a separate Act of Parliament to protect it. Everybody just take a deep breath and think about that. You can actually look it up. There is a separate Act of Parliament. So the problem is, let's just follow through what I've been saying now and conclude it. There is inevitably, if you have that sort of two-tier, not simply two-tier politics, but two-tier taxation, two-tier everything else, there will be more and more Tommy Robinsons. And finally, the respectable political establishment will have to deal with them. You can see it is the great tension. I mean, let's be quite clear. This is the tension, not simply with the press. It's the tension with reform. Reform and its leading MPs and people like Farage are visibly pulling back. They too are frightened. They too are dealing with unknowns. They too know that they're staring into the abyss. This is, Or remember, Robinson himself, right, let's again get this clear.
Yeah.
Robinson himself will lead nowhere.
And he doesn't want to, really. He doesn't
And
want
I
a
do
political solution.
Robinson himself will go nowhere. But if we continue down the route that we are now, what will happen is exactly what happened in ancient Rome, is exactly what happened in Weimar Germany. You will find some element of the formal political system working out a way overtly to enlist this. And I'm sorry, we've now already seen it in another very important respect. We've seen it with the new Islamist party that is rising up like some evil mushroom. We've now, I think it's 5 alleged independents who are in fact members of an Islamist party. And they are, of course, supported by this huge street mafia that consists on the one hand of Muslims, who, by the way, unfortunately, seems to me, terribly keen on going to the gym. And secondly, they are supported by the insane fools of the radical left, the hope not hate lot, the Antifa lot. And they do look like a street army, and they have increasingly political representation. I mean, this is why I am so terrified.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? I'm introducing Manscaped's latest release, the Chairman Pro Package. The all-in-one set includes everything you need to recreate the luxury of a professional shave right at home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Package has you covered. First up, we have the star of the show, the electric foil shaver. This isn't just any shaver. It comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You have the 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go absolutely clean. And you have the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep a bit of a rugged look. Both heads are designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave, reducing redness or discomfort. A standout feature that truly differentiates the Chairman Pro from the rest is Flex Adjust technology. This innovative tech ensures a superior shave by allowing both blades and the pivoting head to seamlessly adapt to the unique contours of your face and is gentle on the neck area, helping you maintain great contact with your skin at every angle. And the Chairman Pro is waterproof, so you can use it right in the shower. It simplifies the cleanup too, just a quick rinse under the sink and you're all set. It isn't just for daily shaves either. It is powerful enough to tackle up to 5-day growth, making it perfect whether you're shaving every day or just tidying up after a few days. With up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you won't have to worry about running out of juice mid-shave. It also comes with a travel lock to help keep it from accidentally powering on during travel. But that's not all. The package also includes the Power Shave Gel to get the ultimate wet shave experience. It's packed with skin-soothing ingredients that defend against redness and irritation. And to finish off, we've got the Face Shave Soother, and aftershave serum is a game changer. So you can get the Chairman Pro package today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code OUTSPOKEN for 20% off and free shipping. That's www.manscaped.com using the code OUTSPOKEN. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way. No, and there's a reason to be terrified, but I want to dig down a little bit deeper, if it's okay, into the Reform UK question, specifically in regards to what we saw over the weekend, the election of Kemi Badenoch as Conservative Party leader. So Rupert Lowe, who's one of the brilliant Reform UK MPs, he posted on X, Badenoch wins. I have never been more confident that Reform will outright win the next general election. And Nigel Farage had a similar take. Let's have a look at what he had to say.
As projected, and indeed delivered, Kemi Badenoch is the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, which means the Conservative Party have turned their backs on the idea of leaving the ECHR because that's what Generic stood for. What you're going to get with Kemi Badenoch is more of the same. Pretty much exactly the same as the last 14 years. I've got to tell you, One thing they don't understand, it isn't about the individuals. The Conservative brand is broken.
And then he released, David, a second video being even more specific about what Jenrick's loss meant.
The Tories have chosen. They've chosen Kemi Badenoch over Robert Jenrick. What that means is the Conservative Party is now committed to staying in the ECHR, which means we can't deport foreign criminals, and they will never, ever stop the votes. So if you voted Jenrick or wanted Jenrick to win, you now realise the direction of the Conservative Party. It is now time to join Reform. Do it.
And Kemi Badenoch, in her first interview, which she gave to the BBC, this is how she responded to the Reform UK threat.
Nigel Farage says that you are more of the same, no change.
Well, I think that's actually quite a hilarious comment.
Hilarious, why?
Yeah, yes, it is, because I'm obviously not more of the same. And I think that shows that he doesn't actually know what to say in response to either me or some of the principles which I have set out. Nigel Farage and the success of Reform are a symptom of the Conservative Party, in my view, not being clear enough and consistent enough about our values and about how we were using those Conservative values to deliver for the British people. If we get this right, then I think people will start to see that Reform is nothing but a spoiler for the Conservatives and just creates more and more Labour government.
Your reaction, David Starkey, who's right, Farage or Badenoch?
I voted very clearly for Robert Jenrick. I thought, again, I would say this, wouldn't I, in view of everything that I've been saying, that he didn't go remotely far enough. What I want to see repealed is not simply the ECHR. I want the Equality Act repealed. I want the independence of the Bank of England repealed. I want the Climate Change Committee repealed. I want English nature repealed. I want us to go back to a system where the people that you and I elect in Parliament actually control something. And until we get rid of that lot, we will get nowhere. And above all, I want the Supreme Court to be cut down to size again and to be made a subcommittee of Parliament, because otherwise we have, and this is what is so terrifying, as I tried to explain when we were talking earlier in the show, we actually have a system in which the law now rules over politics, which means lawyers like Starmer actually control the political process by legal means. This, in other words, there's this kind of, it's the equivalent of a kind of constitutional Iron Dome. It's like the Israeli Iron Dome of law that protects this entirely, in my view, illegitimate and alien system. Right. So that's what I want to see happen. I would have much preferred, for all of those reasons, to have seen Robert elected.
Me too.
On the other hand, I am a great believer that you do not destroy things. And the problem with reform is presenting itself in a fashion which is just as destructive, unfortunately, as the Labour Party was in the 1990s and as the Labour Party is turning out to be now. The reason I am a conservative is because I believe, isn't it odd? Isn't it funny? I believe in conserving things. I believe that it is reckless and foolish change which has got us into the mess that we are now. It was reckless and foolish change which set up the NHS, this ludicrous centralized system when we already had a highly functioning system of localized and charity-driven healthcare, just like continental Europe, that could have been the basis for an insurance system, just like continental Europe. But we chose to pull it all down. It's because we believed in the new that we did the utterly disastrous thing after the Second World War, and we tore down what was left of our cities, and we built the hideous left-wing brutalist rubbish, which means nobody wants to live in the thing. Why our cities don't work is because they are vile and they are ugly. Look at what's going on in continental Europe now. Go and look in Poland. Poland is the fastest growing economy in Europe. And do you know what it did at the end of the Second World War? Despite its desperate poverty, despite communism, it rebuilt. It recreated that sense of historical continuity. And it's when you rip that away, it's when you rip that sense of belonging, that sense of rootedness, that sense of cultural security away, that you get the horrors that we are experiencing now. Now, why I'm so sympathetic to Badenoch is that she gets half of that. She understands the point and she expresses it very clearly and forcefully. Unlike most politicians, especially English ones, in very clear English, she expresses that sense of the need for cultural continuity. She expresses an understanding of that, I would argue, better and more fluently than Jenrick did. But that can only happen if the big political decisions are taken. And she is setting up now what? She's setting up at least two, as it were, inquiries. She's deliberately modelling what's to be done with the Conservative Party on what Margaret Thatcher did after 1975. That's to say, you've got an instinct about the direction in which you want to go. You've got a guru. I've no idea who hers is. In those days, it was Sir Keith Joseph. And then you come up with a series of serious policy proposals which were unveiled to the country in 1979 in that astonishing Tory manifesto and swept the board for Margaret Thatcher. So for me, Dan, it's very simple. I want to see what she comes up with in those policy proposals. If they do the sort of thing that I am talking about, the future of the Conservative Party is safe. If they don't, do you know what? I might even become a member of Reform.
I voted for Reform at the general
I mean, I have
election.
no look. I get on extremely well with Nigel Farage. I actually had and one of the more amusing events. It may even form a footnote in politics. This is back in March when I was in Palm Beach, and if you remember, I was lecturing on Tudor art in Palm, and I was actually lecturing on the Tudors and the wonderful refurbishment that we were doing of Hever Castle. Anyway, I have lots of friends, 9% on the Republican side of politics in America. And it happened that Nigel was in Palm Beach as well to have one of his interviews with the Donald. And Nigel and I met for tea immediately after his interview with the Donald. Tea in my case was Earl Grey. Tea in Nigel's case was 3 quintuple gins and tonic down like that. And he was the sight of him wearing pink golfing shorts because terrible sight, because we were meeting at the golf club. By the way, there are two. There's a golf club where people play, which is really awful, and there's a golf club where nobody plays, which is really, really rather smart. We were there, and I told him at that point that it was his duty. He was then very hesitant about standing, if you remember. He was correctly saying he has major family burdens in terms of finance. He was saying for the first time in his life, he's making serious money at talk radio. And he was very doubtful about whether he should stand. I told him, and I'm perfectly prepared to say this, I told him he should stand. It was necessary that the Conservative Party, the kind of party that called itself the Conservative Party, was defeated. And it needed to be defeated shatteringly. The kind of complicity of so-called conservatives like David Cameron, George Osborne, Michael Gove in the catastrophe of New Labour is something that will have to be excised. It will have to be recognised as a terrible, terrible mistake. Otherwise, Farage will be right. So I mean, I've no problem whatever. I've attended Reform events. I've spoken at them. We are a broken family, and there will have to be a new bond of union. The issue is, it would be much better if Nigel could act in this case as Nigel acted over Brexit. If you remember, over Brexit, Nigel acted effectively as an Archimedean lever on English politics, which is why he is, whatever happens now, he is the most influential figure in 21st century British politics. If it had not been for Nigel, we would still be in the EU. I think I'm certain he will, one way or another, perform exactly that same operation, that Archimedean, the fulcrum and the lever that can shift universes. He will perform exactly that same task in breaking the Conservative Party away from what it's been. Again, it's all this conspiracist language when people talk about the Uni-Party. Now, normally, me, respectable historian, go, ha, 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 ha. But actually, it's true. It really is true. There was effectively no break of government in 2010 at all. And in other words, when Labour goes on about the disastrous state of the country, they're absolutely right. But that's because there was no break in 2010. We continued down that disastrous route. And Nigel, one way or another, will be the person who breaks it. What I do not think, Dan, and this is the important thing, he is not a prime minister. He is so infinitely divisive that there is no way that he could actually be a national leader. Or if he were, it would be in the situation that we find ourselves with Keir Starmer. He would dwell equally on an extreme. And that is profoundly dangerous.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.